Welcome back to the Overachieving Shit Show. I'm your host, Dr. Kate Rodriguez. A quick disclaimer, just remember that although I am a therapist, I am not your therapist in this episode. This podcast is just for entertainment purposes and some psychoeducation for everybody to be able to take away. Okay, so you have a super stressful day. You're just putting out one fire after another. You feel like a damn extinguisher that's being used over and over again. You get home, you finally get a chance to relax. Everyone finally goes to sleep, everyone's fed. You sit down and you turn on a medical drama. You turn on The Pit to watch more people getting stressed out, but this time it's not your stress. Okay, so why are some of us overachievers watching things like The Pit or Grey's Anatomy, something that has more stress in it after we've had an entire day of stress? Why would we do that to ourselves? Well, I started asking myself the same question because guilty as charged. I was watching it over a weekend while my husband was out of town, and I was texting him like, okay, you can't get on the top of the ladder anymore. The kids are never gonna ride motorcycles. All these sort of things. And him and his friends were like, what the hell is wrong with your wife right now? If she's so stressed out, why is she watching this show that has nothing but more things to stress out about? And I wasn't too sure. The one thing I would say is that I felt like I wasn't alone. There's days at my work, at my healing center, where I have 8 clients back to back, right? And sometimes I just have 5 minutes in between a session, if I even have that. And there's times where I open my door, and every time I open my door, I feel like all the questions come in. Dr. Kate, can I ask you an ethical question? Yes, of course, that's why I'm here. Dr. Kate, somebody called and they're really angry. Can you help me? Dr. Kate, this billing problem came up. Hey, there's somebody downstairs that's really mad. Sometimes I handle it like a boss. Like, I love to think that I'm kind of like that guy in Pulp Fiction that puts out all the problems, or like the charge nurse over on The Pit. But other days, I just don't have it in me. I'm just like, I don't know. Of course, I always stop to answer the ethical questions because, that's important. But there's certain days where you're just not yourself. You're not able to put it out like all the other ones. And I really identified with the different characters in The Pit. Although I know they're dealing with a total different environment and situation, I saw so many different types of burnout in this. So I would like everybody to take their deep breath, and when you exhale, unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, and let's just kind of see who you identify with and what type of burnout you're seeing in yourself today. Because with a lot of you overachieving shit shows, who I'm assuming are listening today, you think that if you keep going and you keep doing it all, that you're okay. But I'm going to say something that might piss you off just a little bit. You can still be performing at a very high level and be burnt out, okay? Most women who are overachieving are. They don't look burnt out because they're still getting it all done. They look successful. They're still reliable. They're still that person that you can call, but internally, they might be just one inconvenience away from completely losing their shit and breaking down. Okay? And so that's what I want y'all to recognize so you don't get to that point. So when you start watching The Pit or any medical drama or any of these kind of things, you start to realize that burnout doesn't show up in just one way. It doesn't look the same for everybody. It shifts, it adapts. Sometimes it hides. Sometimes it hides pretty deep down to where you have no idea what's happening. So let's break down some of these, because you might have had one or maybe more of the ones that are shown on this show. So the type 1, We're gonna go with the over-functioning, the I got it burnout is what I'm gonna call it right here. So this is the one that everybody praises. Everybody loves them. Dr. Robbie, can you fix this? Dr. Robbie, we need you in this one. We can't do this one. Dr. Robbie, how do you do it all? Dr. Robbie, can I have a talk? And he does, right? For the most part. So you're the person who handles everything, you fix it. You can even anticipate the problems before they happen. And you carry all this load. This is the person who's the coordinator of the chaos, right? Many of us feel this in our homes too. You are giving directions to everybody. You are making sure everybody has water, food, and all the things that they need. And sometimes you don't even sit down. One thing that I noticed that I really felt in this, and I think a lot of counselors probably do, or anybody who's in a type of work that's as fast paced. Every time he went to the bathroom, someone would stop him. They would intercept him at the bathroom all the time. And I know how that feels, and it's really tough because in this type of burnout, you want to put out the fires. You love putting out the fires. If one of your top strengths is adaptability and problem solving, you enjoy it. I know I do. And so it's like I gotta go to the bathroom. Wait, if they have a problem, let me put that out, then I'll get to the bathroom. And then sometimes you forget, and sometimes it takes a long time, and there you are. So I know that that's one of the big things. You make sure everybody else has all these things. Meanwhile, you haven't had water, food, or a bathroom break all day. And people are out there calling you this strong one. So they think maybe you're not burned out. Maybe you're just the reliable one. Congrats, right? If it's a group project, you're going to be the one who does the whole thing, and they're going to say, we did great, team. So your toxic trait is actually competence. Wonderful. It could be worse, right? So this is where your identity gets tired of being needed all the time, and the nervous system is going to start to power down, right? So then there's another kind. There is a shutdown. So the people who might be able to problem solve, they might be able to do a lot of these things, but at this point they can't even make decisions anymore. So they're just like, tell me what to do, and I'll do it, right? So these are kind of the quieter burnouts. These go a little slower. So you're still showing up, right? You're still there. You're still doing the job. But are you really? Are you really present? These are the people that are doing the tasks. They're checking the boxes. They're responding. But you can always tell in their face that something's wrong. They look like they're losing their spark. I'm thinking of Dr. Mohan in this one. I believe it's her name. So sometimes it kind of looks like emotionally you're just offline. Like you're going through the motions, you're doing your job, but you're just not all there. So you didn't lose your passion, but maybe you had to kind of turn your passion off just to survive the chapter that you're in right now. Your internship, your school, maybe you have to work overtime for a while to pay off a loan, or maybe you're working at a certain place to get your student loans forgiven. Whatever it is, it's like, I have to make it through this chapter to then get to there, and you're just done, right? So if someone asks you how you feel, you'd be like, yeah, sure, right? And this is where you're not lazy. It's thinking about this time more as you're at low battery. You need something that's going to charge you back up, because right now you have no charger. There's no charger to be found. But you have to figure out what that is for you. It's not going to be a bubble bath and eating kale. It's going to be, you're going to need something more, right? So this is your nervous system protection. So it's not failure. It's more of like a conservation. Like, I only have a little bit of battery left, so we got to figure out how to move forward with it. So the type 3, I want to go with something bad's about to happen kind of people, right? I know many of us have been there where it's like, things are going okay right now, I can handle it, but I just know something bad's gonna happen, right? So you're maybe anxious or hyper vigilant, like you always think something, the other shoe's gonna drop at some point, right? So this one looks like anxiety. This is burnout in disguise, right? So you can't relax. You can't prepare for everything, but you're always trying to. You're always trying to prepare. You're always scanning, trying to figure out what can go wrong and how you're going to do it. And even when things are calm, you are not. So you're preparing for a crisis that hasn't happened yet, but emotionally, you feel like it already has. Your brain has already told you that you're in crisis, even though you might not feel it right now. So if you relax even for 3 minutes, your brain might start even being like, this is suspicious. Why are we doing this? What's going on? Right? Have you ever done that? Have you ever felt like you've been in crisis mode for so long that when you finally do relax, you can't? You're like, I'm sitting on the couch, my phone is off, I'm watching TV, and for some reason I still feel like the crisis is happening. I still feel like I'm in the middle of the house with a fire. I still feel like I'm in the middle of the emergency room or whatever it may be. So you call it being prepared, but your nervous system calls it never resting, right? So it's in chronic activation. So it's just feeling like it's all the way up and you're in the red zone for so long that your like nervous system just totally forgot what it even feels like to be safe. Okay? So another one I wanted to touch on is the everyone is so annoying type of burnout. I know there's a lot of people out there who are probably nodding their heads like, oh, thank God I'm not just a bitch. No, you might be very irritated and very cynical. So this is a phase that a lot of people don't like to admit because you're short, you're kind of maybe just a little too irritated to where you have no patience. Your patience is gone, right? So I'm thinking here with Dr. Santos, right? She seems like she hates the world. She's mad at everything. People are talking and you're just rolling your eyes like, why do people act like this? Why are people so dumb? I hate everybody, right? And so you still care, but sometimes you just don't have access to that. It's like you don't have access to that empathy. You're so annoyed with everything that you just can't. And if one more person asks you a quick question, you might snap, right? At this point, you come across maybe like a mean person, but you're not a bad person. You just hate everybody temporary. It's almost like you have empathy. It's coming, but maybe it's like a back order. It's just not going to arrive when you want it to or when it should. And so this is where you have the emotional depletion. You've been giving so much empathy to so many people that it's done, right? And so the last one that I want to talk about is I can't do this today. Many of us have seen this in different environments where people just collapse, not figuratively, more figuratively, but it's like, this is the one that a lot of people imagine when it comes to burnout, right? So it's like when you finally just like hit a wall, you're exhausted. You can't think straight. You can't even show up the way you used to. This really can feel scary sometimes. You might have lost all the joy in the stuff that you used to love because this is just not who you are. What you're doing right now is not who you are. This is your system pulling the emergency brake, right? At this point, your brain has 47 tabs open and none of them are loading, right? You said, I'll rest for a second, and your body said, nope, we're gonna live in this rest. We need this more than just a little nap. So you didn't lose motivation. Your body was just like, oh, well, if your brain's not gonna do it, I'm gonna do it for you, right? right? So this is what happens when all those earlier signs just get completely ignored. And your body's like, okay, hold my beer. And so here's the part that people miss. In the pit, it's kind of like the same people, but on different days, right? So if you're an overachiever, you've probably been all of these, all the 5 that I just named. You've probably been one of these at a different time this month, right? You've probably felt a little bit of all of those at different times. Maybe you haven't got to the last one, maybe you haven't collapsed, but I think that while we watch shows that are very high intense like this, you can see these different symptoms in different people at different times. Like, we all go through different ones, and that's okay. It's kind of part of the shit show, right? But we also have to remember that it doesn't have to happen this way, right? So we can pay attention to the signs. We can see how there's that parallel to the overachievers, right? We have to be able to figure out the best ways to cope. And there's good, bad, and ugly. You have heard some of the women, if you've listened to the podcast, you have listened to different guests that I have talk about the good ways and maybe the unhealthy ways that they cope sometimes. And we all kind of have good, bad, and ugly. None of us are perfect all the time, and we need to forgive ourselves for that. So, there's some people that might hide in a break room and just cry for a little bit, right? There might be some people like my guest Lisa, who goes and hides in her car and listens to rap music and smokes a cigarette. There might be people who feel like they're completely detached. And these are moments that are kind of disassociative moments where it's like, I just got to disassociate and recharge. And even if you're just numbing the pain for a few minutes, you feel like that's what you need to do. But what we need are some of the healthy breaks, right? So if you think about in the pit, they'll have a few moments to wash your hands, right? So they stand at that scrub sink and you're feeling that cold water and you're mentally closing the file of one patient that they saw and moving to the next one, right? So this is a little bit of a way to reset that nervous system. So you have to move from that sympathetic to the parasympathetic, right? So you're going from the fight or flight to the rest and digest. And you can do that intentionally in different ways, right? Whether it's stopping to do some deep breathing, doing some stretches, or screaming somewhere if you have the place. Another way to prevent the crash is how to triage your inbox, right? So not every email is going to have the same amount of importance as a chest wound or something stabbed in the neck or whatever kind of emergency that they see in there. Certain emails that you haven't opened or you haven't returned, your body or your mind is turning it into a really big thing. Like, this is this huge emergency. But in reality, it might be more compared to like a stubbed toe or a broken nail, right? So stop treating every single task at the same level of urgency. There's the people in the waiting room, and then there's the people that are being zoomed in by ambulance. They're not the same. Everything is gonna get taken care of. It's just gonna have to be at a certain time. I really wish they had more staff there though, because man, sitting in that waiting room must be horrible. Another thing that you have to do is define your shift, right? So many of us don't have a total off clock. So the way they were on the pit is most of the doctors aren't leaving right when their shift is over, right? They're staying because their help is always needed. You see that waiting room, it's busting at the seams. And so instead of handing off their patients, they're going a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And many of us do that. We don't define our shift. But I love that there were certain nurses or there were certain doctors who, as soon as their shift was over, they were like, sorry, I can't stay. I have kids at home. Bye. Right? They actually cut it and left. And nobody got mad at them. right? Did you notice the place didn't come crumbling down? The next shift took over. And we need to know that we can do that in our lives too. So we need to have a weekly check-in with ourselves. So what went wrong with this week? Was it a me problem or a system problem? Do I need to change my shift? Do I need to alter it? But more than likely, if you're in a big company, a hospital, community, mental health, nonprofit, there's a lot of times where it's a system problem and it's not a you problem. So you have to figure out the best way for you to be able to work in the system. And so one of these surgeons who tries to be 100% perfect on every single stitch during a mass casualty like we saw in the pit, they're still going to lose a patient. So they're aiming for functional and stable while you're out here trying to be perfect at everything from work to PTA mom, right? So I need everybody to remember that you need to protect your spark. So burnout isn't one personality, it's a progression. We're all going to progress in different ways. So the goal is to catch those symptoms early so that you can keep functioning when something feels off, okay? Protect that spark. If you feel your spark inside starting to go out and you're not there for your loved ones or enjoying the things you used to, something's starting to happen and you need to figure out how you're going to fix it. You need to close those mental loops we've discussed before and be loyal to your future self, okay? So pay attention to what version of you is showing up right now, because the earlier you notice it, the less dramatic that shutdown's gonna be. I hope this kind of helps, because I really don't want people to feel that because they're feeling the breakdown, it's going to be the end of it, okay? You can do something right now to either prevent it or to treat the symptoms you're seeing, okay? So just everybody, take a little bit of time to sit, drink some water, take a few deep breaths and figure out what kind of things you need to do. So you're a human being. You're not a whole hospital wing, right? So I would love to hear any kind of comments, any sort of recommendations on guests or topics for the next show. I'm really enjoying this and I'm having a lot of fun, and I can't wait to have the guests that are coming up are going to be fantastic. And I really hope this is helping you in your journey to protect that spark. So I am Dr. Kate Rodriguez. I'm going to continue being an overachieving shit show, and I wish you luck on your journey too.